All right, so there was basically one thing that everybody who walked into this building today that isn't already employed by Ohio State was wanting to see on the first day of spring practice here Tuesday at the Whitty Hayes Athletic Center. Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, Stephen Means, Andrew Gillis. Andrew, we put you as the guy who was going to be watching the defense today. How long did it take you to locate Sonny Styles and find out which position group he was in, and what did you see in that regard today?
Well, it took me a minute to find Sonny Styles, actually. I came over to Steven and I was like, I don't think Sonny Styles is here. And, you're looking around because there's 100 people out here, so it took me a minute to find him. But when I did find him, he was exclusively working with the linebackers. He was only with the linebackers. That's a move that Ryan Day said that, he didn't say it explicitly. Sonny Styles is a full-time linebacker now, but he said this is the best for him. He's taking it he's taking it in stride, and he wants to do what's best for the team and all those kind of things that you hear when something is happening in a full-time basis. So Sonny Styles is now a linebacker. You look at kind of where he can go from here. Ryan Day mentioned that he can do a lot of other different things. He didn't really say what those are. You can kind of use your imagination. You can use him in coverage. I wouldn't be surprised if you start to use him as a blitzer. I mean, he's a really big body, and that's a physical guy that you can get in when you're, fourth and long, third and long situations where you can get him kind of near the quarterback and get him around the ball. But, yeah, Sonny Styles is a linebacker, and I think that over the next couple of days, couple of weeks, it's going to be big to see how his growth happens because, that's the job that Ohio State really needs. They really need someone to step up at linebacker, and Sonny Styles might be it.
He was not with the ones at linebacker. It was kind of break down where people were lining up today.
Yeah, so it was C.J. Hicks and Cody Simon. Those were the two linebackers. The defensive line was exactly what you would think.
Just as far as the linebackers. And then it was Styles and Powers with the twos?
Yes, correct. Those were the twos.
Gotcha. And Ryan Day, when we asked him about it, he was asked about it in the press conference today, said, you're going to see Sonny Styles at some other places too. Stephen, what do you imagine those to be? How much more experimentation do you expect to see with him this spring?
Zero. I think they're going to spend the spring just teaching him how to be a linebacker, which is so annoying that Ryan Day said that because all it did was let off a beam in my head of, I have a million questions about this, but you're not going to answer any of them until the fall. But it's almost put a pin in this conversation, and then when they're trying to prepare to play football games, because I do agree with the idea of that coaches always say that spring is about the individual development and fall is about getting ready to play football. He's got 15 practices, 14 left to learn how to play linebacker, which is why he's with the twos right now, which is why for C.J. Hicks's case, we talked about this with Devin Brown at quarterback. Okay, C.J., lock down a spot. But because Sonny Styles is coming, he's not just going to not play after playing that much last year. But I am interested to see how quickly does he pick up on things. At some point, maybe in the spring, we'll talk to him about his development at linebacker. And when you mix that with his experience as the nickel safety, whatever you want to call it, then when we come back in the fall for fall camp, we're asking Jim Knowles every scheme question possible of what this could mean for Sonny Styles in an Oregon game versus a Penn State game versus a Michigan game. But it's going to be interesting, and it's going to be something, obviously, we're going to be talking about for the next 6 months. But it's just not something we can have a conversation about right now until he actually learns how to play the position.
And it's not just the spring. He's got the offseason. He's got preseason camp. A year ago at this time, it was the same thing. We all came in and where's Sonny Styles going to be on the first day of spring camp or spring practice? And he was the number 2 at Bandit. So he wasn't with the first string, and he was not at the position that he ended up playing most this year. He did have to move to Bandit after Lathan Ransom got hurt, but he was the starting nickel at the start of the year last season. So just a thing to keep in mind that this is the second year in a row where Styles is kind of going through a bit of a transition, and I think this is the right way to play it. Don't read too much into where he's at in the depth chart. I would read a lot into the fact, though, that he was a full-time linebacker today. They were kind of fine at safety depth, although they don't have Malik Hartford this spring. They also don't have Court Williams this spring. We weren't really expecting Court Williams. Hartford is a new development that he won't be around this spring. Ryan Day says he'll be fine and back for preseason camp. But they're probably okay long-term depth-wise at safety as long as things don't get too much thinner. It gives them the room to figure out what Styles can and can't do and where he's going to maybe fit best into this defense. As we've said all along, it's more about just getting him on the field full-time. Call it whatever you want. There's just got to be a way to utilize his talents, and if he's getting kind of squeezed out numbers-wise at safety and you've got openings at linebacker, it all just makes too much sense. A lot more talk about this on Buckeye Talk, and get the text 614-350 3315. As soon as we got done with our practice window today, we were texting you all the intel that we saw from where guys were lining up and everything else we saw and heard today at Ohio State practice from cleveland.com.